Welcome to Week 5 of the Snap UK podcast, your one-stop shop for news, views and opinions on American football from this side of the pond. Today in the doghouse, I'm joined by Jim, John, Paul and Gary. Say hello, boys.
Hello, boys.
What up?
Hi.
You've done that before. We have a packed show for you today. 3 of us ventured outside of the doghouse and went to White Hart Lane down in that there Tottenham for the Falcons versus Jets this weekend. And we'll share our experiences with you later. Another coach dropped himself into hot water this week for a manner far more serious than accidental lap dancing. And also there was a full slate of games to get to.
Accidental.
There was nothing accidental about that. Well, the one there was nothing accidental, and like it's a bit of a highlight from the trip to London. But I would just say I really appreciated the fact that there was some sponsored Urban Meyer fingers being given out this weekend, which I really enjoyed.
There actually were.
To be honest, the best thing about this by far, I bet Urban Meyer's just thanking God for this email controversy. And it's interesting because talking about rubber has stuck like glue.
Oh dear. I was going to say we'll start in chronological order with Thursday night's game. So let's do that. Thursday night's game, Rams at Seahawks. Rams win 26-17. 9 points, a fairly comfortable win for the Rams, but more importantly, the Seahawks are in trouble. Russell Wilson will miss his first games ever as a Seahawk.
194 games he played.
Yeah, 5th overall, I think he was, all time. We did play a game of, do you want to name those that have started more consecutive games above him? Do you want to have a stab?
Rivers, Eli Manning.
Keep going. That's 2.
Breeze.
No.
Peyton Manning.
Yes.
I know the answer. San Marino.
No.
Favre.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. Well done. Jim had already played that game. So, it's Geno time. As 2 former Giants fans shudder.
I did see some weird stat line that came out the other day, actually saying, drafted in the first round, Geno Smith, drafted in the 3rd round with Russell Wilson. Some of the
Geno Smith's never lost a playoff game.
Yeah, exactly.
That type of thing.
Yeah. Geno Smith was a 2nd rounder, but yeah.
Give you some hope. Well, still.
Don't forget he was drafted behind EJ Manuel. That's how bad Geno Smith was. But he did replace the Eli Manning start streak. Don't forget that.
Didn't he get punched by his teammate as well?
He did. Ike Incompale punched him and broke his jaw about 5 years ago, and he lost the starting job to Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's right, at the Jets. So, Gino, what hopes the Seahawks progress for the playoffs now?
None. Done. Out. Finished.
I made a bet with you that the Cardinals would not finish bottom in that division. And my God, that's looking smarter by the week.
It really is.
That's one of your smarter bets.
Yeah.
If I remember rightly, I didn't take that bet because that one was okay.
I don't think I did either.
And
I did.
I think you're right. I think the Seahawks, they've got problems in lots of places. Carson out as well. He might be back next week.
Issue? That sounds like it's going to linger.
It's never great. So I think they're in trouble, if I'm honest.
They're giving up, on average, 450.8 yards of offense per game.
And they did that last year as well.
That defense is worse than it was last year. I think for the last 2-3 years, Wilson has dragged that team into playoffs kicking and screaming. He's not there. Their next 2 games are the Steelers and the Saints, who are both good defenses. And then they've got the Jaguars, so that could be an actual competitive game based on how bad the Jags are. So I can't see the Seahawks, if it's anywhere longer than 5-6 weeks without Wilson, I can't see them being competitive at all.
They'll be too far behind after 6 weeks.
You can hear the fear in how they're talking about it because you're already hearing it might be 4 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Geno didn't play badly the other night. He really didn't. The interception that he threw at the end of the game was kind of the fact that Lockett fell over.
You look at their stats, and they're comparable, but
Wilson and Smith.
Wilson and Smith. They're pretty much identical, in fact. But we know that Wilson is a quality player over 4 quarters, and Geno Smith
isn't.
And the Rams didn't have a game plan for Geno Smith.
Geno Smith hasn't been a quality player over 4 games in his career, let alone 4 quarters. But he does have one of the few perfect passer ratings in the last 5 years. Just because he does. I think it was his penultimate game for the Jets. He had a perfect passer rating. But that just shows you can prove anything with stats.
Exactly.
I'm seriously concerned. I think the Seahawks will be lucky to win 1 game with him at the helm.
Well, like I said, they've got the Jags in a few weeks' time, so
Well, we'll get to that.
In that division, you've got to be, right near the top of your game, and they're not going to be nowhere near it.
Yeah, I think this division is now separated into two, hasn't it? Where you have got the Cardinals and the Rams at the top, and the 49ers and the Seahawks at the bottom, and I think that's how it's going to stay. Then
let us go into the rest of the NFC West. The Cardinals won 5 in the row for the first time in 6 years, and went 5-0 to start the season for the first time, I think, since 1974.
Yeah, they were the St. Louis Cardinals at that point.
Beautiful. Remember when St. Louis had football teams? They beat the Niners in a drab game, actually, 17-10.
Our defense is still quite good.
Our defense is brilliant.
Yep. Our defense is still very good.
So who has the better defense? Because the Cardinals' defense was also very good.
The Niners.
I'd say the Niners. Looking at what they had to go up against versus, the Cardinals were effectively playing a rookie quarterback. Well, they were playing a rookie quarterback, playing in his first game. I thought Trey Lance looked all right. He looked like a rookie quarterback. He made some really stupid errors, and he made some really good throws as well.
We wanted him in, if anything, in fourth quarters of games that we'd already won. We talked about this at the start of the season. We needed to get to the playoffs with Jimmy. If we didn't do that, we weren't going to get there. And he's only supposed to be out a few weeks, isn't he? And I think Jimmy would come straight back into this team.
Yeah, there are rumours he is. I
think that's the right thing. I don't think he's ready.
I don't think it is the right thing. I think play Trey Lance, get him some experience. Right, we already write this season off where we are. I think. Well, I think the playoff hopes are gone. Realistically, given how strong the NFC is,
I think you could. If we think we're done, I think there's an argument for playing. Half and half. Letting him play. The back ends of the game.
What's the point?
Well, because defences will be slightly more tired. You don't want to get him injured. For nothing.
I think you're more likely to get Jimmy Garoppolo injured by doing that.
Who cares?
You're more likely to get Jimmy Garoppolo injured.
Nobody wants him fit.
Just play Trey Lance.
He's not
let him have the full experience.
He's not worth anything fit, so he's not worth anything injured. So bring him back and then take some pressure off Trey Lance. That's my opinion.
You might get some stupid, desperate team like the Texans trading for him.
No, you won't. I don't think you will.
As a non-49ers fan, I don't think Trey Lance looks remotely ready. He cannot wait to take off and run when he's got the ball. And that is not what you need right now.
There were a lot of times he did run a lot. 16 carries, 89 yards. Not going to deny that. But there were a lot of times where there was just no one open.
No, but you've got Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel who require the ball to be launched down the field. And whilst Jimmy G is a conservative player, he does pick those players out. And I don't think for a second that Trey Lance is going to accurately do that on a regular basis. I think Gary's probably right. You need to nurse him in where you can. He would have benefited from a whole year sitting on the bench, just coming in mop-up duty. And you could ruin him by playing him too much. Teams will get a beat on what he can do. He'll get hammered if he starts running all the time.
At some point in time, teams are going to get a beat of what he does.
Yeah, but not when you're a rookie. Not that early. It's too much.
Why not? Put him in. See what he can do. I think he looked good on Sunday. He's playing against potentially the best team in the NFL at the moment. Based on their record, they are. I didn't think the play calling was brilliant from Shanahan. I think those two need to work together longer. And if we're going to say that 49ers aren't going to get into playoffs, and I think we can pretty much all agree on that, then what's the point in playing Garoppolo?
You're 2-3. I don't see why you're abandoning the season so early. As easily could be 3 teams come out.
Yeah,
of the division.
it's 2-3. If we're in the AFC East, maybe that would be good enough. But it's 2-3 in the NFC West. I don't think that's good enough.
Might not be 2-3 if you play Jimmy. That's the point. I think it's too soon to give up on what is a good roster with a not ready rookie. I really do.
As another non-49ers fan, I'm just looking forward to the ride, to be honest with you. It's going to be great watching what he does. It's one of these non-middle ground things. It's either going to develop into someone unpredictable or it's going to be a car crash. And I'm really looking forward to it.
He's not ready.
Completely agree.
And I don't see Tua played too much too early, and it hasn't helped his career.
How do you get ready without playing?
Don't know. It worked for Pat Mahomes sitting.
Put him behind beat hard.
Yeah, Pat Mahomes was sitting behind.
It worked for Jimmy Garoppolo, didn't it?
Yeah, it worked.
Sat behind Brady.
Then he got injured.
He did, but it worked for him. He took us to a Super Bowl.
It feels like you're in the minority here, Jim.
Yeah, I'm happy to be, but
fair enough.
point of opinion, isn't it?
I'm surprised. I thought you would be waiting for Jimmy G to come back to get you competitive again, because you have been better when he's there.
Well, I don't think we've been good enough.
If he keeps starting for another 5 games, I'm going to get a Trey Lance shirt. You're going to change your mind.
But he's going to end up with a knee like Max Williams if you do that.
Yeah. So we should cover that. Max Williams has been an effective tight end start of the season. He was just a few yards shy of 200 yards already, I think, on the year. And when your knee starts facing sideways, turns right, sharp right out of your leg, that's your season over. He's done. They haven't officially announced it yet, but it's over. He got hit. Was it the helmet or the shoulder caught him?
I think it was the helmet
as he went out of bounds. It wasn't a dirty play. It's just that's where the player ended up, and he looked immediately done. Like the staff on the side were all holding him down, and that's not good.
I think the reception he got as he went off. I think most of the Cardinal players also knew that he was pretty much done for the season.
Yeah, everybody came over.
It was like that going off last season, wasn't it?
I just don't know if it makes that big a difference to this Cardinals team. They seem to be able to. Kyler's playing at such a high level. You kind of forget at times that DeAndre Hopkins is on the field, and then he turns up and snatches the ball out of the air like that.
But it's the options, isn't it?
Yep.
You've got Hopkins, Green, Rondell Moore, Kirk. There's great wideout options in that team.
Yeah, and running back, the running game's improved no end there as well.
Yeah, it's able to do enough. That's the point. That's James Conner's proving to be an able backup. He's got a few touchdowns already.
He's not. I wouldn't say he's a backup. He's just a red zone goal line threat, isn't he? Chase Edmonds can do everything else they need to do alongside Kyler Murray.
It's a little bit like the Bucks. I'm sorry, I'm going slightly off
kilter
with this, but you look at the Bucks receiving core. You could put most quarterbacks in that team, and they'd look phenomenal. Maybe even Geno Smith.
Not James Winston though.
Steady on. I'm not sure about that. So those 4 teams that we've just spoken about are clustered together in that division. We already know Jim's fairly sure it's over. I don't agree. I think the Seahawks, it's over because of the amount of time Wilson's out. If Jimmy G only misses another week, I think you're well in the running still.
I mean,
because you have Shanahan.
Yeah, well, the 49ers are going to a bye next week. So if he does come back in 2 weeks, I'll be disappointed.
I'm not convinced by this Shanahan train. I still don't I don't get this aura around him.
All the games we've lost by a score again. Our defense is playing brilliantly.
And he has nothing to do with the defense.
He's the head coach.
I get that.
You realise that, don't you?
But he's not the defensive coordinator, is he?
No, he's the head coach. He's in charge of the defensive coordinator. He's in charge of the whole team.
Yeah, but he's known as being he's known as being a offensive genius, and we have not seen that in his time in San Francisco. Have we?
He turned running backs from mud to gold. Playing for your team.
He's made Raheem Mostert look.
How often do we score 35 points?
We got to the Super Bowl.
I know, but how often do we actually score 35 points?
There's literally only one other thing you can ask of him. That's to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but he's also had a 2-game winning season, a 4-game winning season.
Yeah, when we've lost our starting quarterback each time,
or
had Brian Hoyer starting for us.
He's the head coach. He's responsible for that.
Yeah, I know.
If he hadn't have been so badly affected by the injuries in the time he'd been there, I'd be seeing where he's coming from.
He's responsible for the fitness department and the medical staff.
Injuries down to
he's the head coach.
Yeah, and our injuries haven't been as bad as other teams.
You can't be accountable for one thing and not accountable for something else.
And I'm not denying that, but we have changed the whole fitness.
Shanahan out.
You are the only 49er fan saying that. Literally, probably the only football fan saying that.
There's 2 Giants fans sitting at the end of the table saying, we'll take him.
I'd have a broom at this point.
I don't really mean Shanahan out, but I'm just not prepared to treat him like some god untouchable figure yet.
No, of course not. No, there's no need for that.
I think he's got at least 2 more seasons. He's now got a rookie.
How many winning seasons we had?
2.
Under Shanahan. 1.
Hey,
potentially.
You're getting winning seasons.
We got to the Super Bowl. Every other season has been injuries, and yes, they've made changes to remove the amount of injuries, and we've now got
the other 32 teams don't get injuries.
You were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Yeah. My team hasn't had a winning season in 4 years. 4 years.
Anyway, Griff, I think it's time we moved on.
Oh, I like it. This is good. Bring the passion. Okay. You know how teams that lose the Super Bowl often get a hangover the following season? Well, the Chiefs have dropped to 2-3. They turned the ball over 4 times, and they could not keep pace with the Bills on offense. They suffered a rare blowout defeat, 38-20 to the Bills. This was poor.
I think you're mentioning one very important part of this, to the Bills.
We all sat here
who
last
lost
week.
twice to the Chiefs last year. We all said the Bills
We
would
all
win.
said the Bills were going to win last week.
year.
But not
I
38-20.
said the Chiefs were going to win, and so I got
Did
it
you?
wrong. I'm going to put my hands
I
up for
thought
that.
we all said the Bills would
No,
win.
I said the Chiefs would win. And interestingly, I thought that actually this one was on the offense. As bad as the defense were, the offense was enough.
Let's not discredit the Bills' defense. Like, they played well. They're getting to the quarterback more often than they were last year. The backfield is brilliant. They've probably got the best safety tandem in football at the moment, and they've probably got one of the best linebackers in Tremaine Edmonds, who hardly gets a mention. He basically shut Travis Kelce down. But that Chiefs defense,
Apart from the Kelsey touchdown.
yeah, I said basically he can't do it all by himself.
The problem here is the offense, because we knew the defense was bad. This time last year, through 5 weeks, they had turned the ball over 3 times. This season, 11 times. They cannot put that defence on the field. If you know your defence is average at best and probably worse, you cannot give the ball away, and they cannot protect the ball. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has a fumbling problem
And is now out.
and is now out indefinitely,
for a
injured.
few weeks.
Yeah.
MCL.
Yeah, which is probably not a bad thing, because I don't think he's that good. And Patrick Mahomes is trying too often to bring up the big plays.
Patrick Mahomes had the most rushing yards in this
Yeah.
game. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think you said it last week, Griff. You don't think he's the real thing.
No, I don't.
I'm tending to agree with that, but they need to find something in the rushing game, because you can't. They're chasing the game, yes, but they're not able to control the game, which means their defense is on the field too much.
Yeah.
And their defense is terrible.
Now look at the time of possession. The Chiefs won the time of possession. They also ran almost twice as many plays as the
Yeah,
Bills in this
absolutely.
game. But like you say, they cannot run the ball and they cannot protect the ball. So they can run all the plays they like, but it didn't work. We always said what you have to do is limit the Chiefs on offense. The Bills didn't bother. They just said, you play your game, we'll stop you. That's it. They didn't try and limit them to a number of plays. They didn't play huge chunk running plays of their own in order to keep the Chiefs off the field. They just said, we don't think your offense is good enough anymore.
And
it was right.
well, I think it's right against the Bills. I don't think it's necessarily right to say that the Chiefs' offense isn't good anymore. It is good. It still is good. It just came up against a really good
Yes.
Bills team.
This Bills team are for real.
Yeah, big time.
I don't see, does it remind anyone a bit of the Seahawks when suddenly it all became about Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I was thinking exactly that about Patrick Mahomes, and he has got other players around him who can do it, but the offensive line still isn't gelling as well as it has been, and it's all on Mahomes now. I think.
Is this what happens when you pay the quarterback an inordinate amount of money? You then can't afford to pay everyone else.
Well, they've got a lot of money sunk into Chris Jones, who was out injured, and Frank Clark, who has just been abysmal this year anyway. They've got Tyrann Mathieu coming up into contract. They've got to pay him because they've got Gall Elson,
He
the
looks
defensive back.
so angry.
He looks so angry. I was watching the highlights this morning, and I think there were 3 touchdowns for the Bills where every time the commentator was, and he's wide open, because the player was absolutely wide open. I think one of those was Dawson Knox.
Yeah.
One of them was Emmanuel Sanders. And it's just not good enough. For the Chiefs' defense didn't get a single sack. They got 1 QB hit against Josh Allen. Josh Allen just basically looked at what Lamar Jackson did a couple of weeks ago and go, okay, I'm not quite Lamar Jackson, but he's the second best rushing quarterback in the league. And it was basically a copycat. He just controlled the game because he was able to run and control it through not running into kind of hero land, but controlling it into them going down at the right time.
Do you not think that, like we said, it starts with Mahomes? He's regressing to the mean. He will never drop back and be the same as everyone else. But he threw 5 interceptions when they went to the Super Bowl. He threw 6 last year.
He's turning into Russell Wilson.
He's thrown 6 already this year.
Wasn't there that famous comparison before last year's Super Bowl of won the Super Bowl, lost to Brady?
Yes, there was.
And he is just, that team's becoming, as we've said. But
what I'm saying is
Patrick
you
Mahomes.
cannot expect an outstanding player to carry a team forever, because teams do figure out what they're doing. And also that player will have a streak of bad games. Brady went through streaks where he didn't throw touchdowns. We used to win by field goals only because they do. Aaron Rodgers has been the same. I mean, he had the record for the most number of consecutive games with touchdowns, and then he went 3 games without one. It happens. Mahomes will probably be fine by week 8, but by that point in this division, that could be too late.
I really like, sorry to kind of go off topic again, the Bills' mentality as a team. That is, you can tell there's a massive team ethic, a team spirit in that team. That dressing room is solid.
I think Emmanuel Sanders is part of that as well. He's come from that team spirit in Denver, and he looks like a leader on that team. Like, he's basically surpassed Cole Beasley. He's blown him out of the water and is just doing that role.
He's a winner.
Yep.
Yeah, he's been a leader wherever he's gone.
Yeah.
And he's played in winning teams. He was at the Steelers when they were good, Denver when they were good.
Niners
when they
Niners went
got Super Bowl. Saints when they were decent, yeah.
Do the Bills need a run game?
No.
I think they've got enough, just about enough.
Just enough?
Well,
they've got Josh Allen, but I mean, do they need someone to take the pressure off him running?
I think the other two do enough.
Zach Moss wasn't terrible. I mean, he's never going to be brilliant. He's never going to get you 5 yards a carry. But you know, he averaged on Sunday night at 3.5 yards a carry. It's good enough. But they weren't chasing the game.
Would you take the Bills running backs or the Chiefs running backs?
Oh, Bills.
Okay,
well, one of the Chiefs running back at the minute hasn't got a working knee, so
it's not ideal. Chiefs should have kept Le'Veon Bell. Really, that would have been an idea. Imagine that.
Also, Williams.
Or Williams, yeah. Imagine
Kareem
that.
Hunt.
Well, we said at the weekend, imagine
Yeah.
having watched Kareem Hunt play this weekend for the Browns, imagine if the Chiefs had just gone, sod morals, we'll keep him.
You mentioned
What quote did I come out with?
I don't remember.
probably best not to do on there. You mentioned earlier that they've sunk a lot of money into Mahomes. That's absolutely right. But they've also sunk a lot of picks into that offense. You know, and I was looking earlier. They picked Clyde Edwards-Helaire 2 years ago with their first round pick. 13 picks later, Antoine Winfield Jr. went to the Bucks. Good safety. 19 picks after that, Trevion Diggs went to the Cowboys. What do the Chiefs need more than anything right now?
Oh, yes.
Decent bloody cornerback who can pick the ball off.
Yeah, clearly there's some things are wrong there, but I still think there's more than enough talent on that team to have a chance of turning it around. They're in no worse a position than the Niners. It's just they've got Patrick Mahomes. That's the difference.
Yeah, and I think the Raiders are in a false position in that.
Yeah.
Well, so the Chiefs are now bottom of the AFC West.
I still think that was Mahomes' first poor game.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
Other picks have been on receivers. They've had so many drops.
the true test of the Chiefs and Mahomes isn't playing the Bills. The Bills are too good a team. Let's see where they are in 2 to 3 weeks' time. And they've played, I don't know their schedule, but they're bound to play someone terrible.
Terrible.
We've got Washington next week.
That's a winnable game.
That's in the win column, isn't it? So the Chiefs are now bottom of the AFC West, 2 games and a tiebreaker behind the Chargers, who outlasted the Browns in the game of the season so far, 42-47. Neither defence showed up in the second half. The final quarter was some of the most mental football I've watched.
41 points in the final quarter.
41 points in the final quarter, and it was like 5 touchdowns and 1 punt, basically, is how that final quarter went.
I'd love to have seen the cash out stats on bets on that game.
Yeah, Herbert and co basically unleashed hell at the end of this game. They went into the final 15 with the Browns 27-21 up and came out 47-42 winners. The Browns became the first team to put up 500 yards, 4 touchdowns and no turnovers and still lose a game. Previously, teams were 401-0 when they'd done that.
So Browns.
So Browns. Yeah, let that sink in. 401-0. Oh no, here are the Browns. Have this stat.
Just breaking records as we go.
But the Browns' running game was phenomenal. Baker Mayfield looked like he'd recovered from his shoulder injury. He played well. He did. It was his best game of the season. And honestly, this is just a shootout between 2 teams who should both be in the playoffs. But Justin Herbert looks like an MVP race candidate to me. He was absolutely outstanding.
I don't know why this is the first time we and other podcasts have mentioned it as an MVP candidate. He just looks amazing. Like we're used to seeing quarterbacks in their second year take that slump as people figure them out. I don't think you can figure Justin Herbert out.
Do you know what? Whilst we were discussing the Chiefs and talking about how they've changed and becoming the Seahawks, whatever, I just sat here thinking about all the talent that's come into the league over the last 3 or 4 years at quarterback. You know, Murray, Mahomes.
Yep.
You know, it's just Darnold's starting to look good.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones.
The shout of Rosen from the distance.
But we knew there was a change of the guard coming, didn't we? Breeze, Manning, Rivers, all moving on.
Roethlisberger.
They're all moving on.
Yeah.
And I just don't see where you're going to get a dynasty. I think you could see the title just change hands over the next 10 years so many times.
Unless Brady stays at the Bucks and they keep winning.
Yeah, but he will die eventually.
He's like Senator Palpatine from Star Wars.
So
he's just going to hang on forever.
Going on.
Yeah, he's just going to keep going on.
And even when he dies, he's not really dead. Fucking hell. But yeah, I just think when you look around, there's so many of them. If they're at the right franchise with that talent in young quarterbacks, you could really see some exciting Super Bowls over the next few years, and you could really see lots of different teams win it. I think it depends on injuries, depends on luck.
It does depend on injuries, you're right. And the Browns were unlucky. They lost Denzel Ward before the match started. Jadeveon Clowney was out. And then halfway through the match, Greedy Williams, their other cornerback, went down injured. So there were a lot of reasons that Herbert managed to put so many yards up and they managed to get so many points, but you still got to do it on the day, haven't you?
Do you not think one of the main reasons, though, is that Austin Ekeler is phenomenal as well?
Yeah,
that is a great quarterback-running back combo that a lot of teams would kill for.
And Allen as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ridiculous as well.
Yeah, he is.
Derwin James coming back to that team as well.
Flipping amazing yesterday.
He is going to be the comeback player of the year.
Yeah. It seems like he's in for the shout. And we should also give credit to Mike Williams. 8 receptions, 165 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he was so far open on some of those receptions.
The Browns had no cornerbacks.
I know, but it was like he was on a different field. It was ridiculous.
Like you needed a quarterback who recognised
that
maybe if I throw it to my other really big wide receiver, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Rivers never passed him the ball.
Yeah, because you've got a quarterback who's wanting to play the games excited instead of making 8,000 kids.
I think the biggest difference between these two teams is I felt that with the Chargers they'd get big chunk plays because of Herbert, and I don't think you'll ever get that from Baker Mayfield. He's not that type of player. They lean on the running game a lot, but he's not going to be the guy that throws it up and gets a 6-yard completion.
Landry's not there, and Beckham is done.
Beckham's not Beckham anymore, no.
Been done for years.
That is in my little running order here. Will the real OBJ please stand up or fuck off? You get the choice. What did he have? 1 reception for 20 yards or something?
I just clicked away from the stats.
Honestly, he just was a persona non grata. He just doesn't look the same.
It's never been the same since he was injured, has he?
2 receptions for 20 yards.
They're getting more out of Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah.
Who we discovered this weekend is not related to Ricky Seals-Jones. We were just checking.
That's how surnames work.
I know, but you just never know with like step parents and stuff. It could have been in there, but they don't need him. I don't know what the point of him is. I thought he would slot straight into the Jarvis Landry high number of targets and receptions role, and he's just not doing it.
He's not as good as Jarvis Landry.
No,
that's the reason.
No, I think you might be right. I don't think he's done as a player, but he's done there.
He's done a wonderful job of stepping into the entitled bitch role.
To be fair, we've not heard much from him this year either.
I think if he can get the right team, though, there's a renaissance. But it doesn't work with Baker Mayfield.
No,
You stick him in the Chargers, I reckon you've got a player again.
Just stick him back in New York.
Don't need him.
No, we need wideouts.
Yeah.
We've got none.
You need someone.
There's always the Jets.
Your backup quarterback needs someone to throw to.
In all fairness, Beckham's got 2 passing touchdowns in this league. He's probably better than your backup quarterback. We will get to him later. The other 2 teams in the AFC West definitely shat the bed this week. Broncos losing 19-27 to the Steelers, and the Raiders being shut down 9-20 against the Bears. We can pick these apart best as you can. You can start with Justin Fields' first start, if you like. I thought he was up and down. He's in the same category as Trey Lance for me. He really needs time to develop as opposed to being thrown in.
But what he needs is an O-line.
Yes. What he needs is not to be running for his life. Yes, I could not agree more. It's a problem that they've got.
I read that as well. Everyone's just been reading your notes.
Oh, good. What have I done now?
It's just sorry.
Have I misspelt something?
Should John Gruden comment on
Oh,
it?
yeah, well.
No, I'm laughing at the Bonkos.
Oh, that's surely who Urban Meyer should be managing.
The Denver Broncos.
I did write this one. I'm quite tired. Justin Fields did just enough for me. It was more the fact that the running game didn't miss a beat without David Montgomery. which I think is great news for the Bears. And Khalil Mack and co turned up. They absolutely dominated the Raiders' offense, which had been brilliant to start the season. So, the Raiders just didn't show.
Khalil Mack was always going to turn up for that game.
Yeah.
Always.
Absolutely. Revenge game. He wanted to win. Both these teams are 3-2. Neither of them look it.
No.
I don't understand.
It's how football works.
Schedules.
Yeah. But, which one of them is the better 3 and 2?
I don't know.
The Bears.
Is it possible the answer is neither?
Yeah.
See, I'd have said it's the Raiders as a team.
It's the Bears defense and the Raiders offense, isn't it?
The Raiders have been have had the better 3 wins, because I think haven't they beat the Chiefs and
Yeah.
But they often beat the Chiefs.
But if you test me in 2 weeks, I think the Bears would have a better record than the Raiders.
The Raiders have beaten the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Dolphins so far.
I was really excited when I thought Jeff Horsfield had scored for the Bears this weekend. Well, there's a blast from the past reference for anyone who likes actual football, but it wasn't. It was Jesper Horsted, who I'd never heard of either. But that really excited me. I thought he'd got a Renaissance career going on.
A 50-year-old man from West Bromwich.
It could have been. Stranger things have happened. Have you seen Brady?
Should we mention the off-the-field issue in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I was going to skirt around it in my script, but, I mean...
Another Urban Meyer joke.
Yeah. Okay. We'll just go with it. John Gruden, racist or not?
Based on what he said in emails, you kind of got to say, yeah, there is a racist bone in his body.
That was a racist comment he made.
Yeah, so I was saying before we started that there's a difference between being an out-and-out racist and making a racist comment. I don't think that automatically qualifies you as a horrendous human being. But what I don't like is people making terrible excuses to try and deflect away from the fact that they said something racist. You need to apologise, front it up, and say, Jesus, I'm not doing that again. Not skirt it.
It's exactly what Urban Meyer should have done in terms of I made a mistake, I fucked up, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that's all there is. Move on, and it's the end of the sort of story after that.
The players, and we've had was it Lovie Smith and somebody else have come out and all said, we've all worked with John Gruden and he doesn't appear to be in the least bit racist, but he has made a racist comment. Those two things can exist together.
Oh yeah, I can fix the pressure on my boiler. It doesn't mean I'm a plumbing and heating engineer. All right?
There is just no comeback.
No, I don't know. Yes, I think you're absolutely spot on. So I think we've concluded John Gruden may not be a racist, but he's got some serious explaining to do. And then releasing a further email where he basically is slagging off Goodell does not really help your case.
He's just trying to prove he was having a go at lots of people.
I'm not sure that's the way to go.
That is what he said.
I did something wrong, but I did something else wrong as well.
When his defence is sleight of hand, you think there's a problem. I mean, it's
Yeah.
But look how big an idiot I am. Isn't the best response to anything.
No, I would say not. This will be revisited, I feel. The league don't seem that keen to say anything about it, which I think is strange.
But the Raiders can't afford to sack him.
The league don't seem keen to ban Deshaun Watson as well. I think we can safely say that the league are asleep.
At the wheel, as usual. Yes, couldn't agree more. Were the Broncos the biggest fake of weeks 1 to 3?
Bonkos.
Were the Broncos the biggest fake of weeks 1 to 3?
They were playing some dross.
Really soft schedule.
Yeah, so we all agreed they had a soft schedule, but I didn't
got to win those games, haven't you?
The Steelers are a good team, though.
No, the Steelers are a good defense, though.
But
Their offense did turn up today.
Yes,
Well, yesterday.
but the Broncos' defense should be better than the Steelers' offense. It should be. It really should be, and it just wasn't.
The Broncos' defense hasn't been as good as we thought it would be this year.
No.
Oh, but you look at it, you've got this suite of receivers who they always seem to get something good, no matter where they're drafted. You've got a first round running back who was the best running back taken out the draft, and
Harris, this was his best game for me. I thought he played really, really well, and he's going to need to keep this up because it made Ben look better, and that is what Ben needs right now. He can game manage, but he's not going to win you any games. So
he's still averaging about 2.5 seconds.
Yeah.
He throws the ball, which is I think the fastest in the league at the moment.
Yeah, he's doing fine, but he's not going to win you games. He's going to throw the ball. I mean, he had one the fumble that he had was just ridiculous. It was just like a fat man
He's
dropping the ball.
always turned it over too much.
Yeah,
That's been his big flaw.
I mean, he looked like an old, out of shape man.
I'd say his big flaw is probably around the middle somewhere, if I'm honest with you. But
He's a bit old and out of shape, to be fair.
Juju Smith-Schuster is done for the year. Shoulder injuries, had surgery today, so one of those complement of receivers is done.
He wasn't doing any much anyway, was
he was not. I'm not sure what he
He's
goes
getting
with.
shouted at by his agent repeatedly.
Yeah.
Why didn't you leave, you bloody idiot?
I don't think any of the receivers are doing. Deontay Johnson was doing all right, and this is the first week that Chase Claypool had finally turned up. So he had 5 receptions, 130 yards, and a touchdown. But we've seen absolutely nothing from Claypool until Sunday.
Yeah, he's just someone who needed to turn up. This was someone who needed a big game. And do you know what? Having a big game against the Broncos defense is impressive.
Yeah. Certainly, considering all the talent they've got, both in pass rush, but also in the backfield as well. Yeah, I think a few of you said that Patrick Surtain would be the defensive rookie of the year. I'm not so sure at the moment. I think he's playing well, but I don't think he's playing as well as some others. So it's impressive from Claypool. We need to see him kind of keep that consistency week in, week out for us to, I think, to be really kind of turned around on him again.
And it's the increased targets that will come with Juju leaving. So there's increased targets. This could help massively.
It'll either kill or cure for his season. I think. I suspect it will be the cure.
For the Broncos, you have it's a
Broncos!
bang for the Broncos. Sorry, you have a bang average quarterback who is losing his
Best
options.
players. Yeah.
He's lost Judy. Gordon
Hamler's gone.
Injured as
Gordon
well.
was injured.
Yeah,
But we did get to see Kendall Hinton taking a reception.
And what a reception.
Yes, it was.
Reception.
He's definitely a better receiver than he is quarterback. That's what we've learned.
Does it not remind you of how it went for Teddy in the Panthers last year? Started off okay, then you realised he's just average.
Yeah, he needs a supporting cast. He does need a supporting cast. All right, he threw the interception at the end, but he was going down the field to try and get them to win the game. Like he hadn't played badly up to that point. He had 2 touchdowns, no picks. He was doing fine, but like you say, without the supporting cast and with the defense maybe not up to scratch, he's going to be league average. That's where he's going to be. But he's still better than Drew Lock. So, and when they've got Aaron Rodgers next year, they'll look much better.
Saying, is he better than Mr. Magoo?
Right. With the Ravens facing the Colts tonight, because behind the curtain we're recording a day early because some selfish git's going on with Jolly. Give us a wave, John.
Hello.
Waves work really well.
I know, but he's the only one who knows how to work the buttons, so when he says I'm going away, we have to let him. He's pressing buttons and I don't know what he's just done. We'll round out the AFC North for now with the weekly crazy overtime matchup. Packers 25, Bengals 22, and not a game for the kicking enthusiast. This was special.
It's not a weekend for the kicking enthusiasts.
No,
really.
there was
12 extra points missed.
It's the joint record held with 2015, I believe.
So we were praising kicking last week. And
We were.
You need to stick with your kicker.
Yeah.
Nah.
I still think you do. Mason Crosby had missed 2 kicks in the last 2 years.
But Mason Crosby's got 12 years of decent success to go back on.
Yeah.
What's Evan McPherson got?
He was clutch earlier in this season, but he bodged it in this game. The best bit being, though, that he celebrated the 40-odd yard field goal.
I felt so sorry for him.
I mean, and it was going.
It was clearly missed.
Yeah,
it hit the flag at the top.
It did. Now, but here's the thing. It started off dead centre. Clearly the wind took it, but if it goes over the top of the post, that counts as a score. And he thought it had gone over the top and was already set. It didn't. It went wide and caught the flag on the way past.
Yeah.
And he said afterwards, I thought the refs were joking when they told me we missed. And you're like, mate, they don't joke. That's not... Have you ever seen a ref smile? I don't think they know how. Yeah, that's not a good look, celebrating with your holder and everyone else is like, mate, you've missed. That's not good. Stones on Lafleur, though, to give Crosby a 4th go at winning the game.
I can't think if it's good coaching or not good. I like it because, there's loyalty with the player and you're backing him and you're giving him confidence. And I like that side of things. At the same time, there were a number of 4th downs where they weren't like 4 for 8 or 4 for 9 or 4 for 10. They were 4 from short distance.
4 inches.
Yeah, and you've got Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback and you've got elite running back Aaron Jones. I think on some of those, they could have gone for them.
I was surprised they didn't, to be fair. And yet, see, like the Bengals tried to go for it and Burrow threw an interception that should have sealed the game for the Packers in overtime. but then one of the field goals was missed.
And he did miss one from like 20 odd yards as well.
Yeah.
So like just going for it might not have been the answer.
But that was just. I don't know why they called that play when it was like, I think it's like 4th and 3, and you're throwing it 20 yards down the field. You only need to get 3 yards.
Yep, it was very strange.
It
was very strange. I didn't really feel like either team deserved to lose this game. They had battled each other to a stalemate, and if any game ever deserved to be a draw, this was the one. But
just shows how far the Bengals have come, that does.
Thank you, I agree. The other week, was it last week, Mac Jones was saying no moral victories. Agreed, no moral victories, but what a yardstick of progress this is for the Bengals. Burrow to Jamar Chase is just going to be amazing.
Based on the fact that most of the rookie quarterbacks probably are flattering to deceive, is Jamar Chase now a favourite for Offensive Rookie of the Year? Because he's playing lights out.
He's going to be well up there. It often goes to a quarterback, but at the moment he is lights out ahead of all the rookie quarterbacks.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because like Fields and Lance have only just come in, so if one of them ignites slightly...
Lance is getting dropped next week, isn't he?
Yeah, well, I should hope so. But if Fields, you just don't know where Fields can take that Bears team. So he won this weekend. So let's just wait and see how that goes.
It's certainly an interesting one because receivers, they really have to perform season long to win that. An 8-game spell is not going to do it. But
if you're breaking records set by Randy Moss, you're going the right way.
Randy Moss.
Randy Moss, yes.
quite into his hardcore rock.
He's Sean Connery's favourite wideout.
I will point out, Joe Burrow is still taking some hits. 14 sacks in 5 games he's taken, and he cannot slide when he runs.
He is basically a rookie as well, because he spent most of last year.
Absolutely.
I'd probably give him Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, it's a fair point. He cannot slide. He starts running and then just looks around the field for like, oh, hang on, there's no one here. He's going to get injured again. I know it looks like the right pick to have taken Chase, and it is. Like, that is working brilliantly. But they're still not protecting him. It's only because he's very good that he's still upright as often as he is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
It's still a concern.
Yeah, he needs to take a look at how Kyler Murray plays the game in terms of how he slides, and Russell Wilson.
I heard somebody else compare him to Carson Wentz, and I just thought, oh, please no. Please don't be like him.
Let's hope not. I mean, he is playing...
He's got so much more talent than Carson Wentz.
He's got more talent, but it's the way he takes off and runs and then just doesn't know what he's doing.
He's probably got a nice pair of crutches, just like Carson Wentz.
I really thought you were going to say eyes. He's got a lovely pair of eyes.
Lovely eyes.
Just lose yourself in them.
If we're going to talk Burrow to Jamar, we also want to talk Rodgers to Adams. It just doesn't seem to get old. It's ridiculous. It's like telepathy. It's phenomenal. He doesn't even look. He just throws the ball, and I'm running out of superlatives for Adams.
There's no more else you can say.
That's that then.
If you were the Packers, you'd just be desperate to keep both of them going into next season, and I'm not sure that's going to happen. It'd be a massive shame if they can't keep one of the two, if not both. But it'd also be a massive shame not to see Aaron Rodgers or Devontae Adams playing with a different quarterback or different wide receiver. It's so entertaining to watch them together.
Yeah, I'm not sure either of them will be the same without the other.
No.
But
they'll both be great in Denver next year.
It's entirely possible. Before we move on, we better touch on the Ravens-Colts game, which is later tonight. Like I said, what do we think? I mean, normally I'd be saying Ravens all the way.
Should we just give a reaction for both, and then John can cut it in later? Wow, what a game for the Ravens.
I think the Ravens will win
Colts.
this.
Do we think easy win? I'm not sure.
I think so. Colts have flattered to deceive so far this year.
Yeah, they have. I kind of thought they might start to improve.
No,
I agree with Gary.
I think Wentz is done as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think he's
I think it's a Ravens win. I don't think it's...
What, 3 points, 6 points?
Their defense is on the pitch way too much, the Colts. They've got some good people
absolutely.
on defense, but they're always on the field because that offense is doing nothing.
No.
So for me, that Ravens team will wear them down, and that's still a decent defense at the Ravens. The Colts are going to just be on the field so much. There'll be huge gaps start to open up. I reckon that's a 10-point win for the Ravens.
I don't think it's that much, but I do think it's a Ravens win. And I completely agree with what Gary says, which pains me.
I think 6 points.
Yeah.
6 points to the Ravens.
I think it's a touchdown. I think in it. I think the Colts always play really hard, and you can't rule that out. But yeah, I think the better team is the Ravens.
Just to be the contrarian, I think the Colts are going to win by 7.
No, you don't.
I don't. I think the Ravens are going to win.
You don't think that at all.
For the purpose of recording.
The Dallas Cowboys are streaking away with the NFC East, 2 games above their rivals and comfortably the best team in the division. Dallas crushed the unlucky Giants 44-20 1 year after Dak damaged his ankle in the same game. This time around, the injury bug struck the G-men with...
And then some.
I know. Kenny Golladay, Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley all hurt. We have to wait and see how serious each of these injuries are. We're fairly confident we know what happened to Daniel Jones. I mean, it
nice
was
dance moves.
It was a better knockout than Deontay Wilder. It was, honestly, you know you're in trouble with a concussion when players from the other team start running towards you to hold you up. Man, I don't know how he got off the floor. Wow, that would have killed the average man, I think. Look, they did the right thing by taking him out, but we were laughing at how long they took to announce that he wouldn't return to the game. we knew that when they had to drag him off the field.
You're forgetting the answer was Mike Glennon.
I
I'd
know.
rather have a concussed Daniel Jones than Mike Glennon.
But you remember in the film Gladiator when they dragged the corpses out of the sandy ring where they fight? That's what he looked like when they took him off the field.
Do you remember a couple of years ago when Tyler Eifert broke his knee? And half an hour later they went, "We've just had confirmation Tyler Eifert is out the game."
Yeah.
And you're like, his leg isn't attached. This is the most pointless notification of all time. But that's what they do. But
That's when we saw Eifert go into the blue tent and we assumed they were shooting him like they do at Ascot.
Yeah. But the sad thing is, even in the NFL, as soon as you saw like him going woozy, you thought, yeah, but they could put him back in. You never know. But
It was unfortunate to say the least. Saquon, again, unfortunate. He basically stepped on someone else's foot and twisted his ankle. I mean, that is as unlucky as it gets. It's just...
It looked nasty.
It did look nasty. And when they showed him on the sideline with his sock and his boot off, and his ankle was like the size of his head. Yeah, it was massive. And apparently he was seen in a walking boot after the game. But they're saying week to week, and it may only be 1 week that he misses. So that you might have dodged a bullet there because that could easily put someone out for an extended period of time. And I don't know much about the Golladay injury. He just disappeared.
Yeah, I mean,
non-contact knee injury. It's never good.
I want Barkley to come back because Booker D isn't the answer.
Booker D. Getting a wrestling reference into there. Well done.
Well, yeah, I've got to thumb it in, haven't I? But as a Giants fan, it's just disappointing.
Again. I mean, that's just every season, isn't it?
But I feel it's a little bit like early Shanahan. I know that's a stretch, but hear me out. There's a decent roster. I'm not saying it's going to pull up trees, but there's a decent roster, especially for the division we're in.
Up until this week, Daniel Jones has been decent.
Yeah.
I mean, even before he went out, though, he was playing.
He was
pretty
playing well.
badly.
I thought he was all right. Like,
I'm not having this argument again where we try and argue that the Giants have a decent roster when all I ever see from anyone that commentates on the NFL is how it must be so demoralising for Giants fans looking at the dross they've got. So I'm not going to have it again. Like, you guys can talk around it, but
they've got Kadarius Toney. He looks like the real deal. He really does.
Yeah, great.
Well, that's a good start. You could do with one of your tight ends turning up this season. That's not been good. Yeah. I know John thought Kyle Rudolph would be a better player than Evan Ingram, but they just look like one and the same.
The wide receiving core isn't great.
It's so depleted.
Whether they're injured or not, it's not great.
I'd take them at the Patriots. I think
yours is non-existent.
No, and that's what I mean. But I think they're better than some. And Daniel Jones had played well up till this week, and he was doing okay to keep pace with the Cowboys. But once he was out, Mike Glennon's not the worst backup in the league, but there aren't many worse than Mike Glennon. He's just
close run competition.
The problem is he's a statue, which is what they said at the Bears. Like, they suddenly realised, okay, this guy can't move. And when he first was drafted, now that's 8-9 years ago at the Bucks when he was first drafted. That was still the norm in the league, to be a pocket-only passing quarterback. And he played well that first season when he came in at the Bucks and took over from Josh Freeman, because that's what systems were set up for. It doesn't work now. Daniel Jones is doing better because he can escape the pocket and run. Obviously, it nearly got him killed, but Mike Glennon can't do that. He stands there 2, 3, 4 seconds, throw the ball. And by that time, players have been covered and he's been crushed. So... yeah, John's text about we're playing Mike Glennon and Devontae Booker. Get me out of here. This is it's not what you want to watch. And I think it's a shame. I do think you can call the Giants season over if Saquon misses and Jones miss any more than a couple of weeks.
If
Yeah, I mean, they can still be competitive in other games. They might not be making the playoffs, but without those two, they're just not going to be competitive.
It's done and done for the Giants. Sorry, lads.
It's going to be nice to get 4-13.
Yeah.
Was it 1-4 you want now?
1-4 at the moment. aren't
4-13 sounds a long way away.
they? Yeah.
I think they'll get to.
We play the football team and the Eagles. You never know which Eagles are going to turn up.
That's very true. You don't.
But I would still take the Eagles squad over the Giants
at this point.
roster.
Well, I wouldn't do that.
No,
I would.
You're too harsh on the Giants roster.
I agree with them. I think the Giants roster is better than the Eagles roster.
I think top to bottom, I'd take the Giants roster. And they got the Eagles haven't got much in the way of kind of their offensive line is depleted. Their running backs are shockingly bad. Defensive line is average at best. They haven't got linebackers. Like there's very little on the Eagles roster. I think is anywhere near good.
Should we discuss the Eagles then? So
hang on a second. Sorry,
go on.
I'm going to stop there. We haven't really discussed the Cowboys.
Well, no, but you just moved on to the Eagles.
We were just arguing.
So I'll give you a running order for a reason. Stick to it. So we'll go back to the Cowboys then.
We'll go back to the Cowboys.
Cowboys running game is now
awesome.
the best one in the league. Better than the Browns for me.
No.
I think they're very level. You know,
I think it's one. I think it's what we're
Very
arguing.
similar.
We're arguing over 1 and 2.
Okay, so you want to say one's the best in the AFC, one's the best in the NFC?
Yeah,
I'll take that.
I'll
Okay,
agree
I'll
with
take that.
that.
That's fair.
fine.
I
So
think you're being too much of a ranker here. And I don't
Yes,
think there's a need
that's also fair.
I don't think there's a need to rank.
First time he said
there's always the need to rank. That's what we live for. It's all about the stats.
They're both very good.
I've got a stat for you.
Go on.
I think this player is on par to be defensive player of the year.
Okay.
Trevion Diggs. He's now got 6 interceptions in 5 games.
Crazy.
When was the last time there were double figures of interceptions in a season?
What, by any player?
Any player, yeah.
Oh,
The 90s?
was it Daryl Revis?
40 years ago.
Really?
Everson Walls of the Cowboys in 1981.
When was the last time someone got double figures?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
And he's done that in 5 weeks.
well, he's got
Well, he's got 6. So
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, sorry. So he's done 6. So
Yeah.
in theory, he could get
Yeah. I mean,
my math is terrible. 18 interceptions.
Yeah, effectively. I mean, the NFL record for interception season is 14 by Night Train Lane, 1952.
Wow.
He's on par for that at the moment. The rate he's going, he's playing phenomenally well, and the offense is just brilliant. I think Dak. Who do we said? Derwin James is comeback player of the year, but Dak Prescott's going to.
Dak's going to win that.
It's a shame there isn't 2 comeback and
an
offensive
and
comeback
defensive. Yeah, I'd forgotten about Dak earlier when we said that. He does deserve it.
And I think we've got to recognise the difference that Dak has made to that
Yeah, absolutely.
to that roster, because there's not that.
You're saying
much
Andy
that's
Dalton wouldn't be doing this?
different. But Dalton had a lot of those players at his disposal
all
last
of
year.
them, yeah, all of the players.
And they were poor, weren't they? Really poor.
What about Ben DiNucci? What would he be doing with this? Because he
No,
also
he's on the practice squad.
Is he?
Yeah,
thought he was delivering pizzas to
He stayed on
someone.
the
I would
practice
say
squad.
Andy Dalton wouldn't be on the field, wouldn't be on the field as much because the defense this year. You've got Diggs. We've also got Micah Parsons.
Yep.
There, I still think when it comes to the crunch, the main downside of the Cowboys is the coach. And I still think
Do you know
he'll fuck it up
what?
for them.
This weekend he made some very good coaching decisions. Actually, there was a couple of times where he called a timeout when he needed to, and actually he's made some pretty good calls so far this year.
It tends to be his really late game management in close games. It's a problem. It was easier for him because they were 44-20 up. But you watch in the close games, his 2-minute drill management is awful. And that, like John says, when you get into a playoff position, he is the weak link now.
But he is still a winner.
But he is still a winner, and he's got Super Bowls, and he's not Jason Garrett. Where does he coach? He says he's on the Giants.
You know how we always say that there are some head coaches that should just be coordinators.
Yeah.
I also think there's some coordinators who probably shouldn't be coordinators.
We'll cover the Eagles next then, seeing as we touched on that already. The Eagles dusted themselves off and topped the Panthers 21-18, something I did not see coming, mainly because their defence turned up. I know Jalen Hurts rushed for a couple of touchdowns, but the Eagles' defence showed up and played well against a Panthers team that had been playing well. Panthers go from 3-0 to 3-2. Sam Darnold has his worst game of the season.
But Jalen Hurts did what he needed to do.
Yes, he did. What did he get? 198 yards. I think he threw an interception, which wasn't good. But if he plays the running game, which is what he's good at, he's worthy being in there. What I want to know is, yay or nay, is he the Eagles quarterback for the next 3 years?
I'm going to say yes. And
I will also say yes. John was his biggest hater. You going with yes?
Oh, I'm a pretty big hater.
I don't think I was a big hater. I just think the whole team, I don't think they can do enough for him. And I still think, week on week, I think it's going to take something incredible from him. Because the O-line...
It's shocking.
It's bad.
It's so bad.
If they can improve that O-line next year, in the draft or through some trades, they've got some good wide receivers. They've got Smith and Rager.
Yeah.
Two young and both good.
Yeah.
Rager's not really kind of set the world on fire yet, but Smith looks really good.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
So he looks really
70
good.
yards at the weekend.
77.
Miles Sanders is not a number one running back, but if you could get somebody else in there with him,
he's a timeshare running back.
So if you could get another one there, great. So I think
they're not a million miles away, are they?
I don't think so.
I think Hurts can be there for 3 or 4 years as a starter if supported, like you say. What I want to know is, on the Panthers, Sam Darnold, yay or nay, next 3 years?
Just needs McCaffrey.
This was just a blip. This was just a bad game for them.
Chuba Hubbard had a good game.
Chuba Hubbard is fine.
24 carries, 101 yards.
But I'm not saying he didn't, but he's not Christian McCaffrey.
No, exactly.
And it doesn't make defences react the way that McCaffrey
He's not
does.
the threat. You give up 100 yards to Chuba Hubbard, but you don't want to give up 200 yards to Christian McCaffrey. So you
calling
defend
him Chuba.
That's because Jim told us the other week we had to call him Chuba Hubbard.
That is his name.
It is his
but
name.
we gave up because, Chuba Hubbard
At some
sounds
point,
better.
I just give up on these things, so I just go with the flow. It's like Urban Meyer.
Carson Wentz.
But yeah, I think Darnold will keep showing.
Yeah,
that
I do too.
And really, the defense gave up 21 points to the Eagles. So that defense has performed brilliantly so far this season.
It feels like a bad game, a bad day for the Panthers, and a good day for the Eagles.
That's what happens in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both these teams may have their quarterbacks for the next 3 to 5 years. It's just about continuing to build around them, which is, not a bad place to be if that's where you get to. Okay, I'm sorry, but we have to talk about the Lions. I know.
Oh, you
but
missed a game out.
we do have to. Well, I'll go back to it then because I want to talk about the Lions. I cannot say how sad I was watching them lose. Like, there was an exchange of messages on our WhatsApp group saying he hasn't got to go for 2. He shouldn't be going for 2. And then Jim and I sat there and went, he's going for 2. They've pulled it off. We audibly celebrated. Right, the Lions have pulled this off. This is great. No, they left Kirk Cousins 19 seconds on the clock, and he drove the Vikings within field goal range. And Greg Joseph, who 4 weeks ago couldn't hit from 29 yards to win a game for the Vikings, popped one in from 54 yards, which was his career long, I think, to win the game and take it away from the Lions. Dan Campbell cried in his post-game press conference.
I can't blame him because they're 0-5, and it's just so harsh because they're playing so hard for him at the moment.
They are playing better than half a dozen teams in the league.
But they're just not getting any luck. Every team needs a slice of luck at some point in time. They're not.
When your luck is no luck.
They literally have no luck. That's the second time that's happened to them.
You know what? I really don't care.
They are the only.
They're just another. They just don't matter.
But they're the
Lions
only team.
They're not relevant, really.
The only team in the history of the NFL to lose 2 games in a season on last second 50-yard field goals.
It probably says more about me, but I think it's really funny.
No, but I agree with you. They're a kind of a team, but nobody deserves what's happened to them so far this season.
But it is really funny.
There is a comical element to it.
We all know this, but I mean, Jared Goff, he's basically been booted out of the team.
His face was really funny.
Yeah.
And he's still throwing the ball away.
Comedy isn't it tragedy meets timing?
Yeah.
And that is the Lions. It is funny.
It's supposed to be tragedy plus time, not tragedy plus timing.
But whatever, it's...
Yeah, I know.
Plus, then when they lose, the coach is a fucking maniac, and I love him.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You kind of want to see them win just for him. Just win one game for Dan Campbell. That's all he wants. And I think he'll retire happy.
As long as DeAndre Swift gets me my 20 points, I could not give a fuck.
And how did DeAndre Swift do this week?
Yeah, he got
20
points.
In fantasy. Well, I don't know what he actually did in the game.
11 carries, 51 yards and a touchdown. He also had 6 receptions for 53 yards.
Which is exactly the role he should have. He's effectively the Lions' answer to Alvin Kamara.
He's great.
Which is fine. I think they have so many individuals on this team, but there are massive gaps at the same time, like whole units that don't play well. Jared Goff is running around behind a non-existent O-line, which doesn't suit Jared Goff. The D-line is nothing special. It's like they've got problems.
Yeah.
This is the golden goose, though. This is a divisional game that doesn't matter.
Yeah, maybe. It mattered to the Vikings. If the Vikings lost this game, Mike Zimmer was gone. I honestly think Mike Zimmer was gone.
I think it'll be the end of the season if he does go. I think, I said about the Bears and the Raiders, 2 bad 3-2 teams. I think the Vikings are a good 2-3 team.
You reckon they're better than their record? I reckon they're slightly better than their record.
Yeah. I think Kirk Cousins has been playing out of his skin.
What are they, 2-3?
They're 2-3 at the moment.
If they were 3-2, I wouldn't complain. I don't think they're any better than that.
They've been missing Cook for 2 weeks now, and he's a huge miss.
Is he? Mattison is racking up the same stats. I've got it here. I don't think Mattison's that big a downgrade.
Every time he's out, Mattison is always great.
He's brilliant.
And I've seen all sorts of people saying, because Cook is so injury prone, maybe they should just move on from Cook before they have to pay him too much money.
Or do what the Cowboys are doing.
Timeshare it.
And the Browns, if Mattison's good, split the carries between them.
I don't think there's much of a perceived drop-off between the two. I really don't. I think Mattison's almost as good, and it's good enough. You look at the stats. They're the same.
I think also you could do what the Chargers did with Gordon.
Yeah.
Just move him on. You've got somebody there who's decent. Stick with him.
Bullshit. Mattison is not as good as Dalvin Cook.
No, he's absolutely not.
No, he isn't, but he's upright.
Yeah, and he's fit.
He's playing
He's not as good, but how many...
You just told me by the stats he's as good as Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, he is.
Okay, yeah.
And he's not. Dalvin Cook is a much better player than Mattison.
But the point is, when do you have to pay him?
Probably the end of this season.
So if you have to pay him, and then he's not going to be on the field, then you don't pay him because the difference is not big enough to pay him $11 million a year or whatever he was going to want.
Well, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying don't expect to.
Well, I'm not
win as many
arguing
games
with you.
with Mattison than Cook.
But you're arguing with yourself here.
You're just angry. But my point is they've got to think about that option. I think. Do you move him on and then go with Mattison and somebody out of the draft or a free agent running back, or do you pay Dalvin Cook?
I guess it depends on how much he wants. I think if he's sensible, you'll see that running backs aren't being paid as much as they should be. He's not in that tier where Zeke was, and where Saquon Barkley could be. I think he's in the next tier down. Or also Alvin Kamara. I think he's in the next tier down. So if he's sensible, and that's a stretch for a lot of NFL players, he won't ask for top dollar. Now, if he does, I absolutely agree. Vikings should go, nah, sorry, we can pick up another running back from the draft, or we can scheme a running game. Or we can get Alexander Mattison to run 113 yards again. We'll see how sensible he is when he comes to contract negotiations.
Okay, Jim. When do the Lions get a win? Can we have their schedule up so we can make a decision? When do the Lions scrape a win?
So
2022.
I'll be honest with you, it's not looking good. Next week it's the Bengals, and Bengals are playing very well. Then it's the Rams, then it's the Eagles, then it's the Steelers.
Jesus.
And it's the Browns, it's the Bears.
Maybe the Bears.
Vikings, Broncos,
Bonkos.
Vikings, Bonkos, Cardinals, Falcons in week 15.
It's only 2 to 3 chances.
Bears and Falcons so far, I've ticked,
And then Seahawks, Wilson should be back by then, and then Packers.
Oh, my word.
I think
that's frightening.
We're looking at a maximum, and being generous, of 3.
Yeah, I agree.
And an absolute minimum of 0.
Oh, man, if they were the first team to go 0-16 and 0-17.
But you're forgetting, we do have the Jags.
I was going to say, you've got... We could have 2 0-17 teams.
We won't do.
The Giants are going to end up with 8th overall pick and we
win one game. We've been so shit and it wasn't
You've
worth
got
it.
another first round pick coming from someone else.
from the Bears. That's right.
From the Bears.
Oh, man. I just feel for the Lions. I really do. Right. Let me backtrack, as Jim rightly points out, because I skipped over one earlier.
It's not an exciting game.
Football team dropped to 2-3 as Lasik Jameis returns to toss bombs. The Saints winning 33-22 because there is life after Thomas in the wide receiver corps. Callaway, Harris, they are performing well. And when Jameis gets it right and doesn't throw it to the other team, this is what you're going to get.
I thought you were referring to Logan.
It was quite interesting when I saw a picture actually of because he did throw one pick, didn't he?
As
Only one? Yeah.
So he threw one pick this week. And if you look, one of the O-linemen was standing on his ankle just as he was throwing the ball. Yeah, so slightly distracted as, 300 pounds went onto his foot. But Callaway, everyone thought was going to be, with Thomas out, the player, didn't they, at wide receiver start of the year, going high in a lot of fantasy leagues. And he really struggled to get involved the first few weeks. So it was good to see him have a good game. And then, as John pointed out, used Kamara in a slightly different way. He had no receptions or targets last week. And this week he had, six or seven receptions?
5 receptions, 51 yards and a touchdown.
There you go. Yeah. So different
That's
world.
what they should be doing with him. Washington's defense. Do we have to consign ourselves to the fact now that they aren't turning up this year?
We were all wrong on that one.
The whole league was wrong on that one.
Everyone said that Washington defense, that's going to be good, and it's terrible.
They've got nothing. They've got no pressure up front, nothing on the back end.
I don't know what's happened to that team. Last year they were playing for Ron, and then this year nothing's gone right.
They've been better off with Ron.
They lost.
Yeah, they were playing for Ron, and now it's gone.
But
Fitzmagic,
he's not on the defence. He's only Fitzmagic.
He wasn't there last year.
No, but my point is, what the hell is happening there?
I don't know.
I can't figure it out.
I don't know. They shouldn't be this poor. They're not this talent deficient.
I didn't see them being this poor this year.
No,
they are worse than the Giants potentially.
But they've got a defensive.
He's shit.
Heineke's the same as Fitzmagic. It either comes off or it doesn't.
He's shitter.
But they've got a defense full of first-round picks.
Yeah. Yeah, that defensive line is probably about 4 or 5.
John's been on the roids this week.
It does sound like John's been on the roids this week, doesn't it?
I have to shout because I'm not with a microphone.
Just an angry man. This is what happens when your team's 1-4. I think. I don't know. Can the Saints win a playoff game with Jameis? Yes or no?
No.
I don't think they even need to think about that.
I don't think they get there.
I think they can.
I think they can.
If Thomas comes back towards the end of the season as well, then they definitely can.
They can win a playoff game.
The moment Michael Thomas sees a chance of playoffs, he'll be suited up in minutes.
And it's not even that, is it? It's still Sean Payton, who is still one of the very best coaches in this league.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
And their defense is definitely improving week on week.
Their defense is
good. Winston can definitely win a playoff game with the Saints. 100%.
Yeah, I'm with Gary.
He does seem to be in kind of hokey-cokey form. Because it is just literally, each week is in out.
Yeah.
Remember, extra teams get into the playoffs. So that means extra bad team. Yeah, well, an extra bad team gets into the playoffs now.
It's true. I genuinely think they could upset someone in the playoffs with Jameis without too much trouble. Right, let's talk London. Barely better than the Lions. It's the New York Jets travelling across the pond to take on the Falcons. And the final score here really didn't reflect how one-sided this was for a lot of the game. Falcons win 27-20, but the first half was a brutal reminder of how far Wilson and the Jets have got to go to be competitive. At one point, the Falcons had, I think, 15 first downs to the Jets' one before half-time. This was not good. In the second half, you kind of got the feeling the Jets decided, right, we'll run and get some first downs and just see what happens. Michael Carter, I think he only had 38 yards on the ground, but he had like 4 first downs for that because they suddenly decided we better use the running game. And at least they kept it competitive, but you also got the feeling that Matt Ryan could uncork a 40-yard bomb at any point.
I'm going to tell you something from watching this. I know you guys were there and I won't take that away from you. I watched the first quarter of this game with my 6-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Who at the end of the first quarter turned to me and went, "Daddy, the team in green aren't very good, are they?"
I mean, that's
6.
That's the minimum of summing it up.
We watched it with a few thousand Jet supporters, and they said the same.
Yeah, there was a lot of Jet supporters just getting very drunk to wash away the agony of being a Jet supporter, is what it looked like.
I think that the biggest difference is and we said, the three of us who went, we said this is when you watch it on TV, you obviously can't see the whole field, so they concentrate on the actual play. The amount of receivers that were open for the Jets was actually quite embarrassing, and then Zach Wilson couldn't find them.
Some of the throws were they were
bad.
6 feet over or straight into the ground.
Yeah.
It was bad.
There were a good few occasions where he had probably 2 receivers, if not wide open, then close to it, and he couldn't find them.
Corey Davis and Jamison Crowder regularly had 2, 3, 4 yards of separation, and it's like he couldn't even see them. Obviously, he's a rookie, but
they were terrible, and the Jets' defense in the first half was awful.
Man,
like literally, you could just run through the middle of them.
Like
they were just terrible.
And even in the second half, like when they did kind of pose the fact that they could actually make a comeback, I think at one point they were 8 points down. It's like, okay, they get the ball back. They could not get off the field. Like every time the Falcons had a third down, it went for a first down. And let me tell you, when you're watching in a Falcons home game, it's a first down. It's a horrible, horrible experience.
They play a screeching noise, which is supposed to be a falcon.
And it sounds like an awful metal kettle.
God, it's terrible.
I thought I was camping with scouts again. It brought back some horrific memories.
Like, the Falcons fans must hate their team. Like, just for that.
All of it was poor. All of the graphics were poor. Like, you know, I just wouldn't want to go and watch them at home.
Well, Rise Up is them just leaving the seats and leaving the stadium.
Rise Up is them getting their back up whenever that Falcon goes off.
How's H?
He got
fuck me. He got round.
We were really hoping from H from
Steps.
Well, we had a big conversation about Steps versus S Club 7. I got very confused, but I would have still.
We did not have a big conversation. Gary and the nice lady sitting next to us.
I was getting all sorts of confused.
Yeah.
But we would definitely have preferred H from Steps. It would have been much better.
It would have been a lot better. And
that performance was one for sorrow.
I saw NFL UK posted some pictures of him on Instagram, and the comments were just, polite would be, oh, he was really bad. Realistic was, oh my God, he's fucking awful. I hope they don't do the same next week.
Yeah, but you got to think, how many games are the Jets going to lose in a row? 5, 6, 7, 8?
It'll be a tragedy.
Man alive!
Oh, that was bad.
Sometimes this podcast's better when you're not here. That was very good. I've got to give you that. That was excellent.
But how was it as an experience?
So, there's a couple of things here. The game itself in the atmosphere of White Hart Lane was better than Wembley.
Yeah,
the atmosphere, it's contained. Everything was very well done. The view was amazing. The stewarding inside was excellent. The queuing, no problems.
Amount of bars.
You couldn't find anything to fault in the stadium.
Apart from the price of beer.
That's always the thing. Yeah. The moment we descended the steps outside of the stadium...
Which is a task in itself.
Yeah, the steps up to the seats did nearly kill the 2 larger members of our contingent. I was fine. I was bounding up and down like a deer. But anyway...
Only because your tiny feet fitted on the steps.
Apparently so. Not because I'm not overweight. Apparently. Just saying.
You both, in your race to kill him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But they're still recovering from yesterday, so they can't.
I can't stand up. My calves are fucked.
It did sound like Asthmatics Anonymous. So we left the stadium. We went down the stairs. We got out onto the road, and you do leave onto the road. And it became very apparent very quickly that they had not blocked off the traffic.
So I think, for probably about 5 minutes on the walk to Seven Sisters, Tottenham, wherever you're going, the road was blocked off, and then suddenly the road was not blocked off.
65,000 people, 2 train stations, no traffic control. And all of a sudden, all the people holding the helpful signs that says, we're here to help, fucking weren't. They weren't there anywhere at all. It was bad.
Been run over by a bus.
Yeah, it was. So it wasn't great. And then actually, just the capacity to get people away from the stadium quick. And the stadium stayed open. So you could stay and have a beer after the game.
Which was good.
Which we didn't do, but and they still couldn't cope. But what we couldn't understand was Tottenham play there all the time, and we know they're bad, but season ticket holders still go. So what do they do each time?
I believe,
is it that bad every time?
Having looked it up subsequently, I believe it is the same problem. 65,000 people in 2 train stations does not work. Yeah. And this is the issue. At least when you go to Wembley, you queue up in an organised fashion on Wembley Way. The train station there is massive, and everybody disperses fairly quickly. This was not the case, and it left a bitter taste in the mouth after what had been a better than usual experience. It did help as well that the weather was nice.
Well, the weather was nice, and it was the early game this year, and we were standing there thinking, if this was the late game, we would not want to be here.
No, it was a shame, But that was the only negative aspect about going to White Hart Lane. We very much enjoyed it. We got to see Kyle Pitts in person, who is going to be a beast. This was his breakout game. 119 yards. He had a touchdown.
First touchdown.
Touchdown. It was like watching prime Julio play for the Falcons.
That was my favourite part of the BBC coverage. Sorry, the Sky coverage was them saying, well, Kyle Pitts hasn't had a touchdown. He needs to get a touchdown literally the next play.
Yeah.
He got the touchdown. It was magnificent in terms of timing.
I think he's going to go on a run now. So I think, even that there's one last pass to him that basically sealed the game. Mike Daniels' touchdown sealed the game, but he kind of set it up, and it was Matt Ryan just throwing it up and Kyle Pitts jumping over two players to get it. And I think now that Matt Ryan hopefully has that confidence that he can do that, I think we'll see more of that because he's just enormous.
We said at the time, Matt Ryan still looks like an elite quarterback. He looks like he can make a difference and win games for the team, but he needs confidence in those players around him. If Calvin Ridley had been there, this would have been a 20-point game. He would have because that's the one player he has confidence in, and he would have just gone to him again and again, and the Jets wouldn't have even seen him coming. And that's the only thing that kept this game competitive, I think.
But it's a difference in composure, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, from watching it on TV, Matt Ryan just looks so self-assured in the pocket, whereas Zach Wilson, it's kind of...
it was a moment where he took the snap, he looked up, he started running, and Gary went, he is elusive, and it was immediately crushed by three players. Like, it was so beautifully timed.
He did manage to avoid.
He avoided one tackle.
Gary's like, elusive, isn't he? Bang!
Ran into another three.
Well, I think I was just looking for some positives for the guy.
It was so beautiful.
There wasn't much else.
No, there really wasn't. And we should again mention Cordero Patterson. We twigged very quickly that if Patterson was on the field, they were giving it to Patterson. That was the tactic. And for some reason, the Jets did not twig that this was happening. He lined up everywhere. He lined up in every receiving position and both sides at running back. He was their game plan, and it worked. So you can't fault what he's done as a bit of a turnaround in his career.
No, if there was an award for like most improved player,
like we were at school,
like the award
playing for a youth team.
You were shit earlier, now you're just bad.
Yeah, but all in all, it was a good experience. But I'm glad I'm got to watch the Jags next week.
We definitely.
Commiserations to whoever's turning up next week to watch
Jags Dolphins.
Oh, fucking hell.
There wasn't many Jag fans left in existence over here, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say that's mostly because of how the ticketing has arrived.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the season tickets for Wembley, I'd say they would have been most of the Jags season tickets because that's where they're playing versus Tottenham, which this will be the first Jags game at Tottenham. So, but yeah, there's definitely a lack of Jaguar.
The spontaneous round of applause for Chris Wessling was a spine-tingling moment as well. They put his picture up on the screen and the whole place just stood up and clapped. That's quite impressive when there's 65,000 people there. I would tell it just showed you that a lot of people do interact in some way with each other for this, and it was something to see. So I just thought we'd bring that up. I don't know where Robert Saleh goes with here. You have to stick with Wilson. We know that they only have, who is it? Somebody nondescript as a backup, like some ex-Cowboys player as a backup. Mike White, no, the other one, whose name Cooper Rush. Christ alive, there's no turning back. This is what they're going with, but I expected more out of the Jets defense under Salah, and so far it's not working. He's not in any danger. He'll get 2 or 3 years there, but it's just a really bad start, and it feels like organisational. You know how long it took the Browns to turn their organisation around? I don't think the Jets are there yet.
20 years.
Yeah, but the Jets haven't been good since 1970.
They got to an AFC Championship a couple of times.
The Jets haven't been good since 1970. I don't feel like they're turning it around quickly enough. That leaves us 3 games to cover. Firstly, it is not looking great in the AFC East. So from the Jets, the Bills are dominating the division. Clearly, the Jets suck donkey dick, and that leaves New England and Miami in purgatory. Barely a blip on the results radar week to week.
In purgatory.
I know. Pats barely overcome the Texans 25-22. I was having palpitations and fits.
It was really funny. He was getting so angry.
Yeah, I was beyond cross, and I'm still beyond cross because we're not a good team, and I don't care if we don't make the playoffs as long as we're progressing. But to concede 22 points and 300 odd yards to Davis Mills.
Hang on, listen to this stat line: 21 from 29, 312 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah, great.
Davis Mills, everyone.
But what was going on there? What's that all about?
We actually even managed to get Griffin to a slight discussion about when Belichick should go and how long he is allowed to miss the playoffs. 2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
I said 3 years, I think, but yeah, two or 3 years. I said
one's already gone, isn't it? So
yeah. And I don't mind them not making this year or next year, but I don't expect us to be this poor.
I just wonder
this
how
team.
long him staying there will turn into a distraction.
Well, but what Gary is saying is people thought they were turning up to play for the Patriots on a discount for Brady and Belichick. It turns out they were just turning up for Brady.
Now they're just a normal team, aren't they? Because if you're not going to be in the playoffs this year, you've got a newish quarterback that might go on and do great things, but it's probably going to go on and do good things.
He's new.
So, but who's going to go there for less money to play for Belichick? You can look at what's around you and go, I'm not going there. There's so many better teams.
I agree.
So how do you... I know lots of teams have got to go through rebuilds, but Belichick has got to try and rebuild that team pretty quickly, and he just seems to be losing more and more pieces.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. I think it's true. I will say, because I have to look for the bright part here, the fourth quarter from Mac Jones and the Patriots was exactly what you'd expected from the old Patriots team. They just methodically worked the clock. They took like 7 minutes off the clock, just running the ball really slowly down the field. And this was without Damian Harris, who...
I'd love to be a season ticket holder there.
Yeah, I agreed. It's not pretty, but it's effective because they lost Damian Harris. He had 54 yards on, 10 rushes or something, and he damaged some ribs. But they played some guy I'd never heard of, and Brandon Bolden, at running back. They ran the clock, controlled it for 7 minutes, and then kicked a game-winning field goal, which is exactly what they needed to do. It's not good to watch, but Mac Jones on that drive either handed off or completed, I think, 9 of 10 passes on that. He can't have done any better. And of the rookie quarterbacks so far, he still looks the most NFL ready. Ceiling or not, he does look ready.
Yeah, when you got Zach Wilson getting crushed,
Yeah.
you've got Justin Fields and Trey Lance not doing a lot. It's
I forgot about Trevor Lawrence not doing a lot.
Yeah.
to be fair, Trevor Lawrence is either throwing a rope or
An interception.
throwing a nope.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying that they weren't wrong in their assessment. Okay, we don't need Cam. I don't think this team is any better with Cam, is what I'm getting at. I really don't.
Yeah, they haven't got that bloke with a gut smoking a cigar from the photo, have they? They've got a decent...
Yeah.
He looks the most NFL-ready quarterback, I'll give you that.
Yeah, I wish the pieces around him were better. Actually, I don't, because I don't fucking care.
I realised this weekend that John Brown is still unemployed, and I cannot understand why we haven't signed him. I know Mac Jones isn't a deep ball thrower, but you've got to have that threat on the field.
We've got some money now because Gilmore has gone.
So Gilmore's gone, and it's freed up a hell of a lot of cap space, but I don't know what they do with it. I really don't.
Nothing.
The only bright
Probably
spark...
sign a cornerback that you need quite desperately.
Well, the only bright spark on the defence is Matt Judon, who's got more sacks in 5 games than our highest sack leader last year. He's got 6.
They've got quite a few problems.
They do.
The whole offense is just not great.
Turgid.
I think that's generous. I think it's that bad. If Aguilar... I said it at the start of the season, if Aguilar is your number one wide receiver, there is issues. He's not a number one wide receiver. You tried to pick a couple of decent tight ends up, and they've done a bit recently, but they've not really got into the game. James White's injured. Now another running back's injured. There's just not enough there, is there? And your defense isn't good enough anymore. And where do you go and just get defensive pieces from? It's not easy.
But the one difference with the Patriots compared to other teams is they have these problems and they still won.
Yeah, they won ugly.
The Texans.
Oh no, but you still got to beat what's in front of you, even if it is there's still a potential banana skin any Sunday, isn't there?
And the Bills put 40 points past that. And you've got to think about, this is Belichick who wins things, yeah? So, and this is the Patriots who win things. They are that far away from what the Bills did a week ago.
One of the biggest disappointments for the Patriots this season was losing the opening game to Miami, because since then Miami have lost all their games and they got crushed. Bearing in mind we lost by 2 points to the Bucs. They got crushed 45-17, which is why they're so low down.
What are you?
list.
1-4,
2-3,
2-3.
So not much better. But
so you were 5 minutes away from your worst start in about 20 years or something.
24 years, yes.
Yes, you were that far. That is bad.
Well, Miami are a fumble away from being 0-5.
Yes, they are, because we should have beaten Miami.
Yeah.
And they lost 17-45 to the Bucks. And Brady threw the most. So it's the first time he'd thrown 400 yards and 5 touchdowns in a game. Is he playing the best of his career?
Yeah, I said this the other day.
Like,
I said this at the beginning.
I don't think I've seen him play better.
No.
He looks like he's got 10 seconds every time they snap him the ball.
I think we were doing a show at the beginning of the season where it's like, what might happen, or bold predictions, and I think I said that Brady's going to have the best year of his life. I honestly think that because he's a year in that system with the same receivers, the same offensive line, the same running back, the same coaching staff, in a system that wants to get the best out of him, not just win games.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
On fire.
We forget the COVID interruptions at the beginning of last season.
Yeah.
There wasn't an off-season. They just kind of turned up for that Saints game.
And Antonio Brown, he may only turn up every other week, but when he does turn up for those games, he looks like old Antonio. He's 33 now, by the way.
That's his best game since leaving the Steelers.
Well, and the thing is, Godwin is the leader of that receiving corps now, I would say.
Okay.
And then it could be Evans, it could be Brown that's the main supporting cast this week, and then next week it's going to be someone else. That's just the way that they are. They're operating at the moment because there are just so many options. It's just
how
the defense. Well, it's just how the defense sets up. Who do they prioritise? Who gets the best coverage? And then Brady will just pick it apart. And I went against everything I hold dear to me and put Brady in my fantasy team this year, and it's working really nicely. But
Played brilliant.
I hate it. You know.
When is Tua due back?
Next week.
And will it make a blind bit of difference? No, I don't think so either. I think Jacoby Brissett is just like Tua part 2, and I don't see it making any difference. I don't know how the Dolphins turn this round.
I think Jacoby Brissett looks like Jacoby Brissett, and I just don't think it's good enough. Tua at least has to be given the chance, but I think he's still better than Jacoby Brissett, who is. I think he's just a backup.
Brissett has just given Tua a lot of time to prove himself because they now know they've got nothing better than him the roster.
Yeah.
So Tua's got the rest of the season if he can stay fit to prove it.
That's the problem, isn't it? I've got no confidence that he's going to stay fit.
Yeah.
I also the Miami rushing offense is just non-existent, and if you've got a quarterback with asbestos knees, then you need to help him out, and they're not doing it.
Yeah, Miles Gaskin is terrible.
Earlier on in the show, I asked you if the Eagles and the Panthers had their quarterbacks of the next 3 years. That was to set up this question. Do the Dolphins have the quarterback on their roster who will be there for the next 3 years?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
How was it a good idea taking Tua over Herbert?
You go with what you see. I'll tell you how, because Oregon had not used Herbert to the full extent, and the Dolphins didn't realise that he could be this good. That is how.
The media were all over Tua. Tua, tank for Tua.
Yeah, but he was massively injured.
He was, but they were still saying tank for Tua.
It's been an evaluation error, but I don't think Tua is the answer there. I agree, he is probably better than Brissett, but he's never on the field enough times to show it. That's the issue. But yes, in theory, he is still better. He's the better option. But what's he given you? Or makes you think they're going to win 3 or 4 more games with him than they would with Brissett? Because he hasn't shown it. So it's a problem. There's a reason why he wasn't pushing Fitzmagic last year, and he wasn't.
And as well, they're on the field too much. The defence haven't performed as well this year. They were above their expectations last year. They're not this year.
I still think it's not time to surgically carve this team apart after losing to the Bucks.
No, of course not. But it's just a reminder of last year was an overperformance.
I mean, they're shy, yeah.
It's not on your running order because clearly I'm a buffoon. But Teton's 37, Jags 19, and the Jags players are not playing for Urban Meyer.
But it's Derrick Henry's yearly trip with when he sees Jacksonville players. He goes up a gear and
he hulks up and just runs over people
and just goes for a run.
3 touchdowns he scored, and this was the Jags' 20th straight defeat. I don't know what club Urban Meyer went to afterwards, but I hope it cheered him up.
The Urban Chop House.
Yeah, there isn't a lot to be said in this game other than I don't know where the Jags get a win until they come to London.
Robinson had a great game. 18 carries, 149 yards and a touchdown. Imagine that if you had a really good running back on your roster. And
when they needed to score,
I gave it to
reasonably near the end of the game.
It's a Carlos
and he went backwards.
4 consecutive handoffs, and they were all to Carlos Hyde. just like, what are you doing? It's like Urban Meyer's trying to prove a point. Carlos Hyde was one of his players in college. It's like he's determined to use him. It doesn't work.
Why isn't Derrick Henry in the MVP conversation? He's on course to beat Dickerson's record.
Because he's a running back.
Well, yeah.
Because he's a running back. He will be if he's still on course after game 12.
There've been running back MVPs. Peterson was in the last 12 years.
That's literally the last
there's
one.
so many good quarterbacks now that put up ridiculous yardage.
Derrick Henry will get offensive player of the year because the MVP goes to the quarterback. I agree. It's wrong, but that's how it is.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. If Derrick Henry's right up there and he breaks the record towards the end of the season, his name will start to be thrown in. But he's a running back. That's how it works. It's sad but true. Do we want to talk about Urban Meyer?
Is there much more to say, really?
No, there isn't. Beyond this, next week
we've done some terrible jokes about it.
they come to London next week for their yearly Shite Fest. Jags and Dolphins.
There's photos up of him in every strip bar in London. You know, good tipper.
There is a very good chance, in my opinion, that if and when the Jags lose to the Dolphins, Urban Meyer gets Philbinned on the plane on the way home.
I think you're putting far too much credit on Shad Khan and Tony Khan and the Khan family. Like, they actually have a clue what they're
Shaka
doing.
Khan?
That might be the mum, I don't know. You're putting far too much credit. That is a mismanaged organisation. They were the worst team in the league before Urban Meyer got there.
Yes, but they're still the worst team in the league. That's my point.
Seems to have made it worse.
And he's lap dancing. So I think there's every chance that once they get the okay from the league that they won't get in trouble for sacking him, which is what they're apparently waiting for. If they lose in London, he's gone.
You think they're giving him the finger? So
Yes, I do. I absolutely, you can't skirt around that issue. He's absolutely got to do it. But yes, I do. I think he's dancing with death is absolutely what I think. So let's have a quick look at the games for next week before we close up for the day. Bring up your fixture lists and pick me some good ones that aren't Dolphins Jags.
That's not a good one, is it?
No, that's what I mean. What do we think? Have we got anything worthy of Bills Chiefs?
Cardinals Browns. If the Browns defense turns up, that could be a good game.
Okay, yeah.
It's at the Browns as well, so Cardinals travelling to Cleveland. You know, they're not going to have the roof on, they're not going to have the weather because it should start getting cold at some point in Cleveland. And, you know, the Browns are going to be looking for, well, at the end of the day, they still put, 42 points on the Chargers.
Yes, they did.
Chargers Ravens. That's an interesting game.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see. And Packers Bears is always a good game. It's one of the oldest games, well, not the oldest.
The oldest game.
Yeah,
it's always interesting.
You've got a nice little divisional game for teams with better records than they should have. You've got the Raiders playing the Broncos.
Oh, and
I see this is going to stick.
And the Cowboys are about to destroy
the Patriots. Absolutely. Yeah, I was ignoring that one.
Much in the same way the Steelers could just destroy the Seahawks.
We get our first buys next week as well. Jets, Falcons, Niners and Saints all on the buy next
God,
week.
yeah, the Giants are playing the Rams as well.
So, yeah, any Niners and Saints players, you need to make sure they're not in your lineups.
Imagine that. I think this is where we get into the meat of the season now. I think you get large separation in the divisions. The injury bug is taking its toll on everybody. You start to see things. There's a lot of, for me, less exciting games next week that I think will be rolled over.
You look through the schedule and there's nothing in there much that go, oh, that's good. There's no like Chiefs Bills, is there?
There's fewer competitive games next
on
week.
paper, we'd probably all look at that and I'd say 90% of our choices would all be the same in terms of who wins. So
that means
there will be surprises. Like, it wouldn't be a shock to see the Titans turn over the Bills
when the Patriots beat the Cowboys.
That's just not going to happen. I thought I was reaching when I said the Titans might turn over the Bills. But,
it seems unlikely. Paul, a Cleveland frown for us this week, sir?
I'm going to emphasise the ow in Cleveland frowns.
Go on then.
Just the level of injuries at the minute. When you've got teams that are having to plan for this additional game, they seem to have just front-ended the season.
Yeah.
There are so many injuries. I mean, all right, I'm talking from a point of complete bitterness as a Giants fan here. But the level of injuries this season seems exponential compared to other seasons. All right, I know I'm talking to Niners fans here who you have the worst injury record of all time ever.
I'm just saying, I was hoping this was going to be the Cleveland frown because they've got to do something about injuries.
I don't think there's anything they can do about injuries. I think the key thing is they've got an extra game this year, so that's more injuries. The NFL owners are and there's an extra playoff game as well. So the NFL owners are pushing for an 18th game. At some point, the NFLPA has to say, "Nah, we need something back for this. We either need a higher level of revenue, there needs to be better insurance, or we need to have a bigger roster so players aren't playing as much. There needs to be something has
But
to
they
give.
need better tackling technique. That is the issue with this because it's knees and shoulders,
Head and toes.
and it's normal. Yeah, but it's normally when you see some of the work. There's always a turning or a landing injury, but the amount of helmet to knee injuries is really poor, and there must be something they can do about technique.
Yeah, well, the only thing they'll do, unfortunately, would be to rule it out, and you'll see more penalties, and it'll get more frustrating.
I agree. There is something that needs to be done in regard to that. I feel there needs to be something so easily they could do for next season, which is have a uniform choice on the pitches. Some grass, some rubber. Some players aren't used to playing on certain turf types, and you get the twisted knees, the ACLs, the MCL injuries. That's avoidable.
I think it's not as simple as that because grass won't grow in some areas and other places
freeze in others.
Yeah, and in other places you can't put a rubber pitch in because it'll take too much to uninstall what's already there. A cost-free management way of dealing with this. You've got the extra playoff game and the extra in-season game. Let's say they had the 18th game as well. What they need to do is say players can only play in 16 games in a season.
If you do that, you've got to increase the roster.
Yeah. So then you add it from 53 to 60
Yeah.
or 53 to 63.
The whole point of increasing the amount of games is cash, and no one's going to watch
the backups of Patrick Mahomes.
Because as well, if you're playing the backup quarterback, you play the backup O-line, and no one's going to want to watch that. Let's be honest, no one's going to want to watch that show that on TV.
You're watching that every year.
There is another way you could do it, which is to have 2 bye weeks and elongate the season.
But still, the increased amount of contact is the problem.
It is, but you get more rest time.
No, I don't think that makes enough difference. I agree there needs to be something done. I don't know what the answer is.
Because you are just going to see more and more players, great players,
With shorter
losing
careers.
their careers.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
take like OBJ, who we mentioned earlier. Injuries have robbed. All right, maybe a bit of attitude as well.
I was going to say characters probably in there somewhere.
Well, I'd say it's mostly down to injuries.
It's injury.
I just wanted to see John get out of his seat.
No, I'm no fan of OBJ, but it's
That injury in New York,
Injury
the
in New York
first
was
one,
a
that
contact
he has never
injury.
been the same since.
yeah.
Quickly then, before we go, lean into your mics. This is a quick fire, very brief interlude here. We're going to play a quick game of the old in and out.
Excuse me.
You heard. I'm going to give you the 9, 2 and 3 teams, and all you've got to tell me is in the playoffs or out of the playoffs at the end of the season, okay?
Okay.
Patriots.
Out.
Out.
And I also think out. So that's unanimous out. John's pointing down. He doesn't have a microphone. Steelers.
Out.
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 Out. So again, unanimous. Chiefs.
In.
In.
I'm gonna sit on the fence potentially.
You're not allowed. It's in or out. It's called the
Out.
name of the game. Oh, right. Okay. So we're mixed on
Not
that.
much on the fence then.
What the fuck?
Out.
Out. Absolutely. Eagles.
Out.
In.
In.
So out.
Yeah.
I think they're out as well. Vikings.
In.
Out.
I will say in as probably the 7th team. Falcons.
Out.
Out.
Out. Yeah. Unanimous. Seahawks.
Out.
And Niners.
Out.
Out.
John's saying in. I still think they have a chance of being in if Jimmy G comes back pretty quickly. I don't think they're out of that
All
race.
those teams have a chance. I just don't think it's a very big one.
That's why it was called the in or out. You just
I did
throw it
just
in.
looked at the standards actually, and the NFC has got a lot of teams at 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Right, the AFC teams have got a much bigger chance. Actually, they're still much higher up in the
It's
standings.
interesting if you take the 2 and 3 teams and you throw in the 3 and 2 teams. More or less all of them you can't separate. There are some good teams at 2 and 3, and some awful teams at 3 and 2. Bears, Raiders. it's not that far apart. It only takes a lucky run or the opponents you're playing to be missing Russell Wilson, a quarterback, and all of a
That's
sudden,
because the AFC East has two teams at 1 and 4.
Yeah,
they're terrible.
Yes,
and that division has been terrible for years.
But it's got the most Super Bowls.
Oh, you could delete one of those teams and nobody would care.
I mean, he's not wrong. I give him that. Right. That brings us to the end of what I think has been a long show this week, but I enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your participation. And I will see you gentlemen back here next week. Bye-bye.